On each episode, I have the opportunity and the honor and the privilege to have a conversation with extraordinary individuals from around the world who are top doers and thinkers. Now, these are people who are committed to learning, developing, and mastering their crafts, their mind, and their emotional awareness so that we can learn, including me, can learn from their wisdom and their experiences. Today, my guest is Kerina Graham. Kerina is the financial advisor and owner of El Camino Wealth Development. A little bit about her background is, she's been in the financial industry for 29 years. And of that 29 years, she's been a financial advisor for the last 15 years. She received her BA in finance with a minor in economics and was hired by a financial institution a week before she graduated and has been in the world of finance ever since then. A big transition came when, after 22 years with the same company, Kerina took the leap of faith. Now, this is what I call a high achiever, is when we take those leaps of faith. And she went out on her own and has never looked back. Her passion is helping others with their financial goals, along with mentoring others. And outside of work, she loves hiking and traveling and just having new experiences. So, welcome, Kerina. I am really thrilled to have you here.
Wow. Thank you for that introduction. I am at a loss for words. I wish I could make myself sound that great every day. So thank you.
I am up for hire, so you can bring me along with you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me as a guest today.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, when you remember your upbringing, your journey of, from childhood to now, do a bit of a flyover and kind of fill me in on some of the gaps of, what are some of those childhood memories and life experiences or events that have impacted you and got you to be, to who you are today?
Gosh. My first memory that probably brought me into the financial world was in the mornings, I would go sit on my dad's lap because my dad was always reading the newspaper. And what I learned is he was going through the list of stocks and finding opportunities. So I would sit on his lap every day, and at one point he had suggested a stock, or maybe I even picked out a stock, I don't know, but he had picked out the one that we were going to invest my allowance in so that when I was old enough to drive, I'd be able to buy my first car. So I had a very early exposure to the stock market.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Those for myself, and I don't, so many others that I interview in that too. Those experiences with dad are often the most impactful. And then we have moms, of course, who have impacted us greatly. And for me, I can remember my dad. Now, he was a mechanic. He didn't get his GED until I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. But he was one of the smartest men I've ever met. And he told me, I can remember him, we were working on the car, and he said, when you're done, you always clean off your tools and put them away so you know exactly where they are the next time. And that's created my cleaning of my desk before I leave and making sure I have everything in the right place. So love that story. So I'm curious, what did that mean to you, and how did that impact your life moving forward?
Well, you had talked about the differences between moms and dads. And I got a really good mix from both of them. My dad taught me about the business world. My mom taught me about the importance of saving and making good financial decisions. And so I think that I've taken both of them throughout my life to be able to make the decisions on everything that I'm doing.
So as a little girl, you just kind of remember back, what did it feel like to sit in his lap, to hear his words, to, hear his guidance? How did that feel to you as a little girl? What
I
emotions does
think
it
that
bring up?
none of us ever really realize the things that we do on a daily basis that impact others. And thinking about that question, I just remember such a big, strong, proud man. And that was my impression of him, of always making the right decision, always treating people with respect, that if you give a handshake, that your handshake is your word. And I didn't realize until even recently, how much of an impact those words had on me. I realized it when I was creating El Camino Wealth Management and building in my webpage, because there's a page on there that says our promise. And I used a handshake.
Mm.
And that made me smile because I was like, that comes from my dad.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, it seems like those things that we don't realize, like I say, as little kids, because our brain isn't even fully developed, and we're taking in information and labeling it and giving it an emotion that we're not aware of. And then when it crops up later, it's like, oh, okay, now I understand what that meant and how I can use that in like you have done in your own personal life. So you talk about El Camino, and I know that it's a company that's you renamed and restarted and that. Tell me a little bit about the name and what the meaning is of El Camino.
So the reason I initially picked El Camino Wealth Management is because in 2019 I hiked the El Camino Santiago across Spain,
Mm.
and El Camino literally means the way. So you could look at to mean the way to wealth, the way to health, the way to happiness, the way to success. Whatever third word you want to put in there, you
Mm.
can do that. I also picked that word because when I was hiking the El Camino, it's 500 miles across Spain, and you go across a couple mountain passes. And there were days that I wasn't very happy. It was raining, it was windy, it was cold, but I kept telling myself one step at a time and I will get there. And when you think about that, that's exactly what investing is one step at a time. If we set our goals and we stay focused, we will get there.
Yeah, I love that. Not only the name and the meaning behind it and what it means to your clients. So I'm curious, how does that manifest itself whenever you're talking to a client, no matter who they are, that, one step at a time? How does that move itself into a conversation with them?
Well, I think that everything in life has its challenges. So when we're doing investing, we can look at what is our initial goal? Are we buying a house? Are we saving for college? Are we saving to have an emergency fund?
Mm.
And just like life, we're going to have challenges along the way. We're going to have unexpected events come up. And so I always tell them that's okay. As long as we're prepared, then we can take this one step at a time to get where we need to go.
Yeah. And I can imagine and just for the record, Kerina is my wealth advisor, so obviously I trust her. And I can tell you that the conversations we had during the beginning of COVID was like, holy crap-a-moly, what should I be doing? Do I jerk my money out? Do I do this? Do I do that? And Kerina was definitely a calming force, not to tell me what to do, but to say, let's step back and look at this. And I think it was, again, let me show you the way. So I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that that situation was just reminding ourselves, both of us, what is our
mm,
goals? What is our
right.
end um, place that we want to end up at?
Right. Yes. Yes. So when you were crossing El Camino, these 500 miles, which that in itself makes me just want to go scream someplace of what that had to have been like. And I know my son-in-law has climbed many mountains around the world, and he'll talk about the adventure of it and, some of the lessons that you can bring back from going through an experience like that when you have to push yourself to the ultimate limit, um, and then go farther. So I'm curious, what are some stories and things that you bring back in your memory that you now use in your personal or professional life from that experience?
I think that one of the challenges was being in a foreign country. Um,
Mm.
and it's a very known hike throughout the world. I believe that I met people from
Mm.
69 different countries during
Oh,
that time
man.
period. And my
Yeah.
goal was I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to know their story. Why were they there? What brought them to this point to make this crazy decision of hiking 500 miles? So the challenge in doing that was we all spoke a different language and trying to find that common ground of Do you know Spanish? Do you know English? Where can we come together? And sometimes it was sign language or pointing and just laughing, but just creating that connection, and having those conversations.
So in doing that, what about that influenced the way that you think? Did you think or feel differently from the day you began to the day that you ended?
Oh, I absolutely did.
Mm.
Every day it changed. In the beginning, it was simply a journey. Can I do this? What am I going to see? What am I going to experience? Um, I had my own personal challenges across the way, in that I hurt myself or found out that I had an injury that I wasn't aware of. I was
Mm.
carrying my backpack, and my backpack caused an injury in my neck to come to light. And I found out I had two bulging discs out of my neck. So
Oh,
my
geez.
arm was numb
Yeah.
from my shoulder to my fingers for the last 200 miles. And I had to walk with my
Oh
arm
my
like this so I
gosh.
could feel it.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I had to have a disc replacement surgery in my neck. But again, it was okay, here's the situation. Now let's figure out how we're going to overcome this,
Mm.
because it was just a challenge. It was just an obstacle. Had I realized I was hurt as bad as I was, I probably would have figured out a way to come home, but I didn't. At
Right.
that point, I just knew that I wasn't uncomfortable. But there's lots of times in our
Mm.
lives where we're not uncomfortable. And that's where your experiences and your knowledge kicks in to just get through it.
So what are some of the things that you told yourself then to, it's like, come on, girl, get your act together. We got things to do. What are some of the thoughts and the things that you told yourself to get through that? Or even to add on to that as well, if you did, how did you depend in some way on others or ask for help? Which I know from personal experience, asking for help is not an easy thing for high achievers to do.
Yeah, asking for help was really hard.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, I just had to figure out, what can I do to be able to make it through this, because it was a goal to be able to walk the entire thing. So the first thing I did was realize that I couldn't carry the weight, um, because it was affecting other parts of my body by doing that as well. So I found a company to be able to transfer my bag for me every day from one city to the next. So then I had to actually set the goal and determine, how far can I go today? And I was able to lighten my load and also say, what do I need to do now to be able to get 15 miles today without having my pack, without having all of my supplies. So those were some challenges that I had to overcome. And then I also had to look in the mirror and say, I'm not a failure just because I can't walk maybe those 15 or 20 miles that I had planned today. And if I did a different route of taking a taxi or taking a bus, I was still completing the journey. And that's what was most important.
Love that. Love that. There's so many lessons in there from, you know, uh, figuring out the solution. May not
Yeah.
be the solution that you were looking for, your plans, but you came up with an alternate way to make sure that you could still continue forward, and adjusted. And, being in a business world and in the world today where, I used to say in construction when I owned a construction company that no 2 days are ever the same and every 5 minutes it changes. And that's kind of the world we're in today when it comes to leaders and leading a company or leading a team of some sort. So, yeah, those lessons are really, really valuable. Um, what did you have any type of practice at the end of the day that you used to maybe document what was going on, your thoughts, your feelings, and then help you be able to get up the next morning and do it all over again? Mm.
I would love to tell you I did. Primarily, what I did is I did keep a journal. But in my journal, I wrote about who I met, where they were from, why they were
Mm.
there, because I have done two of these types of hikes now, and I've actually created relationships coming out of them, where now I have friends throughout the world that I keep in contact with. So it was important
Mhm.
for me to remember their story. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I was also working while I was doing this hike. So the benefit of hiking
Mhm.
internationally is the time difference. I was hiking during
Oh,
the day
yeah.
while all my clients here were sleeping. And at night,
Mm.
I was able to get on my computer and get my work done.
Right. Love that. You never stop, right?
No, we don't.
But even doing the journal of, and, as human beings, stories are really what we're all about. So to write each day, not only a little bit about your story, but about others and their stories, that's huge. And making that connection, and understanding more about just humans and human nature. That's a really big deal. Um, I know when I did this several years ago, I did a great white shark dive, in a cage because not stupid. Risky, but not stupid. And knowing this was 3 days, well, 3 days out on the water, um, every day was a new experience to get in a cage and to what I thought was going to happen is this thrashing around of the shark and all that kind of stuff. And the reality was you don't even hear them. They move so smoothly, and different. They're completely different than what I thought it was going to be, and so was the experience, and it was so much better than what I thought it was going to be because I allowed myself to, as it sounds like you did as well, you just go with the flow,
Right. That
and
sounds
things
so
don't turn.
scary.
It was. It was. But at the same time, I do this and I do it with my clients as well, is future focus, where I would imagine what it was going to be like on the airplane coming home. It was my son-in-law and I who went, shared a cabin and stuff on a boat that was only 16 people, 16 passengers, and then the crew. And we shared a cabin in that. And I had imagined he and I sitting on the plane, flying back, holding up our phones, showing each other pictures that we had taken, which meant it had been a great experience because we were laughing and joking and, that whole thing. So taking myself into the end result, helped a lot.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that, if anybody is watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, you won't have the advantage of this, but I kind of noticed that your hair is pink. What is that all about? I actually know what it's all about, but I'd love for you to share, why you, a financial wealth advisor, turned your hair pink.
Right. It's definitely something that's not expected of most financial advisors. Um, but I've always tried to be authentic. And one of the things that I've done for the past 14 years is walk the Susan G. Komen 3-day event, which is a 60-mile walk across various cities. And October is always Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So throughout the years, every October, I go pink. And thankfully, it's permanent, but it washes out throughout the month. So by the
Right.
time the month is gone, it's ready to go out as well.
Right. I love it. I love it. So why? Why, not necessarily why the hair pink, but why this particular charity?
Uh, Cancer has always been my biggest fear in life. I don't necessarily have a reason for that. It's just one of those things that is unexplained. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that so many people are affected by cancer, whether it is stomach cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, whatever it is. I've lost so many friends and family that have been affected by it. And I wanted to do something to make a difference. At the same time, I always want to challenge myself. So I didn't want to just give money. I wanted to go out and make a statement. So by walking the 60 miles, people see you, people ask what you're doing, and you're bringing awareness to it.
Right. Well, and I think too, when I think about it, you're like a walking, talking billboard that and I think that's a great thing because, first of all, I love the fact that you're gutsy enough to turn your hair pink. And I'm sure meeting with clients or even going to events and stuff, when you show up, like you say, it's unexpected. And because it's unexpected, people will ask questions. And when they ask questions, then you have an opportunity to talk about breast cancer awareness, and kind of turn a light on for others that, oh, you mean it is okay to be different? It is okay to state put the stake in the ground and say, here's what I believe, whether you do or not, it's up to you, but here's what I believe. So
Right.
I love it.
I've
Now I'm
always
curious.
tried to just be authentically me.
Mm,
I did a conference this week down in Tucson. It was a women's conference of all
mm,
financial advisors. We all own our own company. And I will admit that in the beginning, I felt like I really stuck out like a sore thumb because I was the only one with pink hair. But there
mm,
were so many positive comments made about the fact that they enjoyed the fact that I wanted to be who I am. They
mm.
asked questions, why did you do this? And then asked me more questions about breast cancer and what can you do to
Right.
make sure that you're going to be okay. So it was a good conversation.
Absolutely, and I would think that as we mentioned at the beginning of this, episode, that just like the things that your dad did with you and how that affected you, we never know when we're affecting people, and it could be somebody you spoke with or somebody who just saw you and overheard why you had turned your hair pink, that the effect that they have, that it had on them rather, could be monumental in a really, great way. Maybe they just go get checked,
Absolutely.
or have a conversation with their son or daughter, knowing that both men and women can get breast cancer. So hallelujah, girl. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love it. So I'm curious, one of the things, and I've kind of touched on this in past years with an organization that I was facilitating around women and wealth. And some of the things we would talk about is, you know, oftentimes when there's a couple, the man is the one that takes care of the finances. Maybe not all of them, but makes some of the top decisions. The woman is still oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes looked at as the housekeeper. You can take care of the, household budget or that. And then the fact that women are living longer than men. And if they don't know and understand things around wealth, when the man passes away, they may be completely lost. So I'm curious what experiences you've had just along those ways of working with and or potentially mentoring women.
So mentoring has always been very important to me. Um, Unfortunately, there are not enough women advisors in this business. And like you said, there really is a challenge for women when it comes to investing. Historically, the woman has stayed at home to raise the children, make the
Mhm.
dinner, clean the house, whatever. And we've made a lot of progress on that. So it's not like it used to be. However, the pandemic really set women back because
Mm.
although we've been making strides in getting the promotions that we need and getting help from our husbands to raise the kids, clean the house, whatever it may be, when the pandemic hit, all of a
Mm.
sudden the wife now became the teacher at home as well. And they had to step away from their jobs. People don't realize the effect that this has on us. It affects our social security, it affects our future earnings, it affects our ability to get the promotions. And so I've really spent a lot of time working with both men and women. I don't
Mhm.
differentiate one or the other over there who I pick, but I always make sure that education is first and foremost part of our conversations. Do they understand
Mm.
debt? Do they understand interest rates and our credit checks, what that effect has on us? And so I just always want to make sure that their decisions are based on the correct knowledge on where they want to go.
Right. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I know it's been a long time ago, but I was married young. I got married when I was 18 years old, and within a year and a half, graduated high school, graduated cosmetology school, took my state boards, got my license as a beautician, got my first W-2 job, got married and had my first child, and that all ended a month before I turned 19. So it's one
Wow.
of those times when I didn't realize what a high achiever was, and to me, that was just doing what I do. Um, but at the same time, almost 25 years later, whenever I got divorced, um, I knew how to handle the finances because I was handling a lot of that, but what I didn't have is my own credit. So, went through a bankruptcy, actually remember standing in line in Circle K with a sweatshirt on and a hood up over my head and cash in envelopes to be able to go in and buy a money order. because that's the only way I could pay my bills. And
Oh,
then studying and trying to learn. So I'd get a credit card that I'd have to pay $300 to get the credit card in order to have a credit card, in order to charge, in order to charge, in order to build my credit. The $300 ended up still being mine, but it was the only way that I could get a credit card in the beginning.
yeah,
Um,
secured card.
exactly. So I remember what it felt like to be in that situation and feeling alone, not wanting to let anybody, my parents, my kids, or anybody else know what I was going through, because I'm supposed to know everything and have all the answers, because that's how we are when we're high achievers. Um,
And look
and
at you now.
yeah, and look at me now. And it was a bear going through, but boy, did I learn a lot, and learn a lot of skills that I've learned, used over the years for myself, but also, as you mentioned, teaching others in construction. There's a lot of men and women who don't know about handling their finances. So I would help even build, um, cash projections and things for them and savings. So
Yeah,
yeah.
my background is actually pretty unique to be a financial advisor because
Mhm.
I graduated with a finance degree and immediately went to work for what was called Seafirst Bank up in Washington. I started out in credit card collections.
Oh wow.
So I had a lot of exposure to the rules around credit cards. And I loved that job, not because I was that bad person making the call of saying, hey, you owe this debt. I loved it because I had the ability to teach and talk to them
Mhm.
about the debt and give ideas on how to get out of it.
Right.
And so I've had a lot of different positions with a bank prior to ever becoming an advisor, which I feel made me stronger as an advisor and understanding money better.
Yeah, isn't that the truth, when we actually have to kind of get in the trenches and work our way up and learn and utilize what we're learning with some insight in order to then practically use it in the future, not only for ourselves, but for others around us. So
Absolutely.
bravo to you for that
Thank
as
you.
well. Appreciate it. Um, so I'm curious then, one of the things, and we are talking about leaders on the edge, which everyone I have as a guest is a leader on the edge. And to me, the edge is when you get to the edge of taking a leap with faith, that I'll be okay, based on past experience or whatever. It may hurt and things may not go always the way I want it to, but I'll be okay in the end. Or we recoil and we go into that fetal position where we just like, "Mm-mm, nope, safe, secure right here. May not like it, may be frustrated by it, but hey, I'm okay right where I'm at." What I'm curious about, and my question is going to, as a leader who has employees and people around you that you work with, as well as they work for and with you. What is your philosophy around how to lead people?
So, as I mentioned, it's always been important to me to mentor others. And when I hire somebody, I want to work with them directly to be able to show them everything. I will never ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So when I mentor people, I teach them how to answer the phones. How do you write a letter appropriately? I include them in my meetings so that they're able to see those communications with my clients. At the end of the meeting, I never ask somebody to come in and pick up our glasses and put our chairs back in. I do that as well to show that I'm not above anybody in anything that I do. So again, I just feel that being a leader is leading by example.
Yes. Oh, so agree. So agree with that. And right now in the world, with the clients I work with and that as well, the um, teaching people, it's not about that hierarchical top down, do as I say, because, look at the title on my card. I am very special. It's about knowing how to ask the right questions, how to lead by example, which is what you just talked about, and use the expertise that we've hired around us to come up with thoughts and ideas that we may not have had, because everything has been so default in how we do. We do what we've been doing, and having new blood that you can show examples to, as you've said, along with asking questions so they get their mind working and bringing up some new ideas. And that is so beneficial, and they feel listened to, which something we all like is to feel like we been listened to and like we matter.
You bring up such a great point because I had an intern work with me this summer, and he has just graduated college. I'm sorry, he graduated high school, but he also graduated with a 2-year degree coming out of high
Mm.
school. And there was so much I learned from him in the 2 months that we were together, really about technology and ways to do things easier. I
Right.
always feel that when I have an intern or I'm mentoring somebody, that I learn as much from them as they're learning from me.
Mm. So where do you believe that philosophy or those values in your life came from? Any thoughts, ideas, or experiences that really brought you to this point in your life?
Gosh, I would have to say that maybe that comes from my natural curiosity
Mm.
of always observing others and just paying attention and having that opinion as to what works and what doesn't work. And always, as well, wanting to be heard when I was growing up because I felt like I had opinions and maybe I wasn't always heard. So, therefore, probably along the way, said I'm always going to listen to others and their ideas.
Yeah, yeah, love it, love it. All right. So, any last words about that you want to leave our listeners with? I've really enjoyed our conversation. I thank you so much for all of your insight and tips within this call. And just any last words you'd like to leave us with?
One quick observation that was made during the pandemic that I don't think that we're aware of, and it kind of comes back to those judgments of learning and listening. I don't know if you heard this study that happened on LinkedIn this last year, that all of a sudden we were all working from home. And a comment was observed. I don't know if that sentence just made sense, but anyway, an observation was made
Yes.
where a man can get out of bed and they take a shower and they put on their polo shirt or they put on
Mm.
their dress shirt and they're good to go. And all
Right.
of a sudden you look at them and you've made that determined based on their appearance that they are qualified for the job that you are talking to
Mm.
them about. However, that's not true for us as women.
Mm.
We have to get up, we have to shower, we have to do our makeup, put our hair up, do our
Mm.
clothes before we get that same opinion by somebody else. And so I try to always keep that in mind. Again, I want to be authentic. A statement was made the other day that in order to be found, let people see who you are.
Mm.
So I try to do that as a leader. I want people to know who I am. I want them to know my values. I want them to know my morals and my beliefs so that I can always hopefully lead somebody in that direction to follow who they truly are as well.
Excellent. And that's so important. Yeah, I've had people in the past tell me, once I had that 25 years and, ended up selling a corporation and that and starting Clear Edge like 17, 18 years ago. Somebody told me once, they said, why don't you put a bunch of, initials behind your name? Because you've had all these, what's now like 40 years worth of studying all the sciences and that as well. And I said, why? And they said, well, then, you have those credentials. And I said, my credential is I only have a high school diploma and I'm the one standing at the front of the room. So what
That's
does that tell
fantastic.
you? Yeah, I mean, it's all the knowledge, education. I find it with all my clients because they're high achievers, very brilliant people um, who know what to do, when to do it, how to do it. They're just not doing it. And it's a matter of, in order to take that next move in their career or in their company, it's a matter of contextually changing how they think about themselves. And as you said, it's really becoming more of yourself instead of hiding those aspects of you that it's like, well, I don't know if I want to bring that up or bring that out or not, because somebody might make fun of me or I might look stupid or, whatever the case may be. It's bringing some of those aspects up so that we can think more clearly and more creatively and verbalize it, voice it in some way with kind of the attitude of, I don't care if you like me or not, because liking me is a bonus to me.
Yeah, it's just
When
so
you trust me, that's what's important. You trust who
yep.
I am, and I'm doing it for the good of all.
It's just so important to take the time to slow down and stop and listen to somebody and hear what they have to say
Mm.
versus just making the judgment based on what they look like, because people are full of knowledge if you just take the time to listen.
Yes, yes, and that's the huge thing. I used to have something up on my, computer monitor, and I teach it to my clients. Yeah, all it said was, "Shut up and listen," and it was a note to myself that when I ask a question, shut up and listen, because you never know, especially in the silence, what they're gonna say next, and what they say next is often the most important thing that you could have heard. So on
Fantastic.
on that, we're gonna stop here, but I am so grateful and so thankful to you, Kerina, for coming on. If anybody wants to find Kerina, you can look in the show notes. We'll have some, website and such out there. And make sure that you stand by, because we're gonna go into afterthoughts and insights, where in 3 minutes or less, I'm gonna break down the top 3, there are so many more, but the top 3 most powerful points that Kerina brought up for us today. So with that, thank you again, Kerina. I really appreciate it. We've got a lot that our listeners can implement into their personal and professional life in order to grow even greater than they already are.
Thank you so very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.